How's it going, everybody? It's Riley's Redzone, and in today's video, we will be predicting each Week 12 NFL game. And this week is going to be a very good episode because we already started. If you didn't see it already, you can follow the Twitter, Instagram, or I posted it on YouTube now. We already made our picks for the Thanksgiving games, and both of us went 3-0. So you might be thinking, who is this other person? This week, the guest picker is Danny. And this week, I think is going to be a special episode as he has explanations for each of his picks. So I will be turning to him to explain some more opinions on each of these picks. And I will also say this, stay tuned. You might see some agreements initially, but there's going to be some disagreements at a certain point. So stay tuned to find out what those are. But with that being said, we're going to break down each of the games. We're both going to kind of give our opinion on what made us go that direction of our choice. And so we're going to start with the Washington and Falcons game. And this one, I think, has the potential to be interesting. The current spread is Washington by 3.5. I think these are two teams that, you know, the Falcons last week against the Bears, they end up with that win. But, you know, it's kind of close. I think that the Falcons don't offer the most offensively. With Mariota at quarterback, he's been fine. He's running the offense totally fine. But last week, you know, their leading receiver ended up, I believe, seeing today, being Kyle Pitts with about 43 yards. So I think you'd like to see something more there. Not only, maybe if you're going to have Kyle Pitts be your leading receiver, which you probably should be, given who you have, let's get him the ball a little bit more, and if not, let's get some other receivers going. I just think they kind of lack a little bit of the explosiveness, which Washington doesn't necessarily have, but I think they have a much better capability to do so. Heineke has given a spark to this team, and it does, you know, it's no mystery why they're giving him the spot for the rest of the year. They've got Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson at running back. They have Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel. They have options that I think will actually allow them to put some points up. And their defense, you know, at times I think can be pretty solid. So I'm going to go with Washington here. I think that they have the best opportunity out of these two teams to put some points on the board, and that's what I think it's going to take to win this game. And we're going to turn to Danny for what he thinks of this game.
Falcons, Commanders. Now, this is going to be a close one. I know, you know, it's going to be back and forth, I think. But I gotta go Commanders with the W here. Taylor Heineke's been getting it done. You know, that defense last week had a great day. Hopefully they can come off and, you know, keep bring that energy right into the next game here, and you know, keep it rolling.
Seahawks and Raiders. Interesting, the spread is only 4 right now for the Seahawks. They are the favorites, and I am going to be taking them. The Raiders, you know, I did pick them in a nice upset win last week, but I really don't think they can keep that going. They haven't been overly convincing. They really are kind of, I think, struggling on a lot of aspects. And as well, the Seahawks are doing perfectly fine. Geno is a capable quarterback. He's performing well. They have a Rookie of the Year candidate on both sides of the ball. I think that Metcalf and Lockett are going to have great games this Sunday. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks there. I think they have much more as a team that they have to offer than the Raiders roster does, as well as within the coaching department.
Seattle versus Las Vegas. The Seahawks versus Raiders. You know, I happen to have the he's a follower on here, but we're gonna go with the Hawks, baby. You know, 12s rolling up. The Seahawks. It's gonna be a close game. You know, I know. You know, you know that going in. But the Raiders just seem to be struggling. Not even them struggling, but more the close games, you know, losing by a little bit, and that offense for the Seahawks has just been rolling. It's been going great. Geno has been lights out. I mean, he's not been, you know, obviously not the greatest quarterback to ever live, but he's been a great game manager thus far, getting it done, you know, doing what needs to be done to get the win. So for that reason, I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks with the dub. Next, we've got the Bucs and the Browns. I'm taking the Bucs. You know, Tom's been great these past couple games. something about that divorce, I guess. They've got a great roster, and I don't believe they're too injured anymore. Godwin's back, Mike Evans back. I just think it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to really beat them.
I would call this, I'm going to call it, I never have an official segment for this, but my almost upset of the week, which might end up being true because I remember last time I said that is when I said the Panthers wouldn't quite beat the Bucs, and then they did with an interim head coach. I get that feeling from the Browns-Bucs, but I think it's a safer choice to count on the Bucs. They offer enough on offense. Get Rachaad White in your lineup if you have him in your fantasy. He's going to be a decent option this week at running back. I think that Jacoby's been fine as a quarterback. I don't think you can complain whatsoever as a Browns fan if you can get those wins. He's been fine. We'll see what happens next week, but I think credit to Jacoby. He's keeping them in some close games too. I do think this 3.5 spread is pretty accurate. I think we're in upset territory, but just not quite willing to bite on it. But I think that the Bucs overall just have more offensively. A good or bad week for Amari Cooper could be a difference here. We also know Nick Chubb is going to be consistent. So I'm going to go with the Bucs, but I could see this being a very close football game. Now this one is interesting because you'll see why he thinks this, but we are in agreement on an upset in this next game. We both believe that the Titans will get the upset over the Bengals, and the Bengals are favored by 2. But I think that Derrick Henry provides a spark on that offense that he is getting the job done. And now, as we saw the Titans last week against Green Bay, they can throw the ball too. They got Treylon Burks going. I think you could make a case that's one of their bigger weaknesses, right, on the team. But if they can get a guy like Treylon Burks, who hasn't exactly, Burks has been relatively kind of dormant this season, not super explosive, get him going. I think that's an X factor piece because getting Tannehill back healthy has been good for them. And for the Bengals, I think even if they are, we know they're not going to be at full strength because Joe Mixon's going to be out. Samaje Perine put up some points last week for fantasy purposes, but he's not a top running back. And Jamar Chase is questionable. I think he's going to play, but if he doesn't, then you're even more hobbled. But even if he does, I think maybe the lack of a run game for the Bengals and a strength of one for the Titans will be the game changer. I think it's going to be a close one, but I am going to go with the upset of the Titans. I think they get revenge of what happened last year in the playoffs. So I'm going to go with the Titans.
We got the Titans and the Bengals. Now, Jamar Chase back is going to be a problem, but I think Titans at home, I think they can do it. And Derrick Henry has been great as of late. He started off a little slow. He looked like he was still a bit battered from that injury last year, yet he's really come into it again. He looked like he was washed. He looked like he was reaching the end of his prime days, but he's right back into it. And so for that reason, I'm giving the Titans the dub here. We got the Texans and the Dolphins. Now this one, it's tough. It seems like a pretty no-brainer, and I hate to say it, but it's pretty obvious you're gonna go with the Dolphins. They've got Tua's playing great. They've got Tyreek Hill. They've got Jalen Waddle. They got Mike Gesicki. It's just there's really no stopping that offense, especially a Texans defense who hasn't been able to stop any sort of movement at all this year.
As Danny mentioned, on paper, this one doesn't make a lot of sense to pick away from the Dolphins. It's just you can't really put money on the Texans at all. I think they're always going to be a team like this that they will pull off an upset one of these games. But right now they're putting them in prime position to get Bryce Young. But the Dolphins just have so much offensively. Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, Jeff Wilson's going to be a good option in fantasy this week. That's another one. Get Jeff Wilson if you haven't already. He's probably gone in your leagues. But if you have him, I would start Jeff Wilson. And as Danny mentioned, Gesicki as well. They just have a lot of firepower, and Tua is getting the job done right now, and there's just not a reason to pick against them in this game.
Next, we got the Bears and the Jets. Now, had Justin Fields been good to go, as I would think, as he looks like he's not going to be good to go, I'm going to go with the Jets. Now I know they took Zach Wilson out, but as we've seen already, it doesn't really look like much of a hindrance. The defense for the Bears is just atrocious, so there's really no point not to take the Jets here. It'll be a low-scoring game. I mean, there's nothing about it. It's not going to be a high score. It's not going to be a super exciting game, but the Jets will pull it out.
And here we have our first disagreement. Figuratively to me, even without Justin Fields, a 6.5 spread seems a little generous in my opinion for the Jets. I am going to 1000% agree with what Danny says here, in the fact that benching Zach Wilson, I liked him coming out of the draft, but the flaws that did stick out on the tape, if you go back and look at what I mentioned, those things that I thought were maybe going to be more minor things ended up being exponentially raised. So the issues that were there, the issues he's having were always there, but they're just at a more extreme level. And so I 1000% agree with what Danny says here, and the fact that playing a different quarterback does not hurt their cause. But I'm not going to say that Mike White will do any better. I was looking back at his stats today because I wanted to kind of get an idea of, because he had to play some games last year. Even in the one game against the Bengals where he had like 400 yards, he had 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. He had 4 interceptions, I believe it was, and no touchdowns against the Bills. But obviously, the coaching staff sees something on him because he jumps Joe Flacco in the lineup as well. So here's what I'm going to say. There's actually, and I'm going to play the same thing as Danny. I agree with, I'm going to say that Justin Fields doesn't play. If he does, then absolutely I am hammering home the Bears here. I think that even if Justin Fields does not play, I'm going to put more trust in Trevor Siemian than I am going to in Mike White. And for that reason, I'm going to go with the Bears. The Jets don't get any better. Like, they don't lose anything benching Zach Wilson, but I'm not going to say they get much better. So I'm going to say that the Bears pull off this upset. And so that's kind of my bold take of the week. I may look like a fool in a few days here, but I'm going to take that shot.
Broncos, Panthers, I'm going to take the Broncos. I mean, this is kind of one of those throw up in the air games. I think, Panthers have been horrid. They got Sam Darnold at quarterback now, and that just is not going to work for them. I mean, Baker might be bad, but Sam Darnold's not better. And, they've just been getting rid of pieces of their offense. McCaffrey gone. There's really no run game there. And the Broncos defense has just been ecstatic. Broncos defense, storied. One of them storied defenses. I mean, you think about top defenses in the NFL, top defenses in the history of the NFL, you think the Broncos. The Broncos are one of those teams that have always and will always have a fantastic defense. They are great at building pieces upon the pieces they already have, which is why they seem to never really run out of defense. So for that reason, I'm going to take the Broncos.
The Broncos and Panthers have been 2 lackluster teams this season, and so I'm going to agree here that I'm going to go with the Broncos. The Panthers just don't have that much, especially with Sam Darnold at quarterback this week. I'm 100% with that. It's unfortunate that P.J. Walker is injured right now because he has been the best quarterback out of who they've had. And I still am so upset that Matt Corral got hurt in the preseason. If Matt Corral was on this team right now, he would be maybe throwing some picks, but he would be lighting up the scoreboard, and I can tell you that would be more than what Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold could do. Foreman has slowed down last week. They could not run the ball, as Danny mentioned. I think that Foreman's been capable at times, but certainly not last week, and right now I don't have their confidence. And I think the Broncos have a decent defense. I agree with that. I think that they have one of the better defenses, and if they can just get a little bit more management of the game with their coach, and you may get some offensive points, I think that they shouldn't have a problem getting a win against the Panthers. So I'm in agreement here. I'm going to go with the Broncos. Ravens, Jags. I'm honestly surprised the spread is only 3.5. I'd probably be thinking that would have been a little bit more. I just can't pick the Jags. I'm going to go with the Ravens. I agree that I think that the Lamar Jackson is putting up a great performance still this season. May not his MVP numbers, but very, very solid. Last week they find Demarcus Robinson as kind of a decent option on offense. I think that they have enough to get something going that I'm shocked that they'd only be favored by 3.5. So I'm going to take the Ravens here. I think it's a safer choice.
The Ravens have been kind of slow this year, and the Jags have been very, very fast-paced with their offense. Now, I'm going to take the Ravens here. I just think Lamar is going to be troublesome, and Lamar's going to be able to pull it out. They've got Mark Andrews. It's a great combo. I think they're just going to get it done.
Chargers, Cardinals, I haven't seen enough of them. I don't have the right access to watch the Hard Knocks in season, but I've seen some clips, and something's going on there. I just don't have full confidence in that team. And the Chargers have been one of my biggest disappointments this season. I put a lot on the line in the predictions video of what I thought would happen, and I thought the Chargers would just kind of explode as this really big breakout team, and they haven't done so. They're still 500, and they've got a decent shot, I guess, at the playoffs. They've got to knock somebody out from the AFC East, but I'm still going to go with them. I think the Chargers offer more offensively. Of two teams that should be able to put up a lot of points, I'm going to put more faith in the Chargers. They were really close against the Chiefs. The Cardinals have the capability to do that, but I don't think they're quite as likely to put up those points.
I'm going to take the Chargers. The Cardinals just do not look good this year. They just struggling offensively. And the Chargers, they're looking for a win. I mean, they've got a good roster, and they're getting at least one of their receivers back in Keenan Allen, and that's just going to boost their offense just immensely. I mean, it's just obvious that that's gonna have an impact immediately. So I'm gonna go with the Chargers.
Chiefs, Rams. Rams have to be one of the biggest disappointments because they don't even have a draft pick to look forward to. But the Chiefs, I think they might be the number one team in football right now. Pretty likely they are. I think they have a lot offensively. It's working with Kelsey getting the rock, and they have enough weapons even with like Kadarius Toney out. Rams hobbled, without some key pieces on offense. They get rid of Darrell Henderson. They just keep kind of going down and down with who they're able to put out on the field. They went all in on the Super Bowl, and they get it. And so whatever happens the next 4 years, 5 years, if you get a championship out of swinging for the fences, I don't care if you are terrible for 5 years, you got a championship. And as a fan of the Minnesota Vikings, I've never not gotten to know what that would feel like. So I've already been through, 5 years of terribleness. So if you can get a championship and then have 5 years, I don't care. Still, once again, credit for them winning the Super Bowl. It's okay, but you have to take the Chiefs here. I just can't put any faith in the Rams this season.
Chiefs, Rams. Again, it's gonna seem like a boring pick. I'm going with the Chiefs. I mean, the Rams have been just a poor offense, and they don't have no Cooper Kupp, no Matt Stafford, and it looks like they won't be having Allen Robinson. Now that could change, but even then, you're out Kupp, you're out Stafford. It's just, I really don't see a way they could pull that one out. So I'm going with the Chiefs.
We got the Niners and the Saints. The Niners, I think people are rising on them as to be perhaps one of the best teams, maybe the best in the NFC. And Jimmy Garoppolo has proven to be consistent, which is what this team needs. When you have some great playmakers around, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, those people alone, even you get like a guy like Juwan Jennings, who I liked coming out of Tennessee. He's getting a bigger role, and I think that they have enough pieces, Brandon Ayuk, that they can just have a firepower offense, and then their defense is decent, like pretty solid. On paper, you'd think they'd be lacking a little bit, but like they can get it done. So I think that you can't pick against the Niners in this one. I think that they will be a team that getting into the playoffs will be gaining momentum, just like the Bengals did last year. I mentioned in that video of predicting the playoffs last year that you want to be a team going into the playoffs with some momentum. I just don't have trust in the Saints with their quarterback position and just lacking some players on offense with some injuries, and I just can't think that they get this win here. But they've been able to, get a few wins this season.
49ers. I mean, 49ers dub. Saints are struggling. They don't have. I don't even know what their quarterback situation is right now. I believe Kamara is questionable, which if he's out is even less of a chance. But I've got my notes here. Himmy Garoppolo gets it done, and that stout defense is gonna make it a whole lot easier for him. Next, we've got the Packers and the Eagles. Eagles W. I mean, it doesn't even matter how that Packers team's gonna play. Aaron Rodgers could have a game of his life. Those Eagles are gonna win. You cannot stop that offense. You just can't. And Rodgers isn't going to have the game of his life. I mean, he's just not been playing great.
Okay, so if you've been watching this video thinking, wow, you only disagree on one pick. Well, here's the show. I am going to take 2 bold moves. In this one, I'm going to go with the Packers. This is it. I maybe even said this last week, but this is it right here. Once again, maybe it is because I'm a Vikings fan and I've witnessed this, but I cannot be fully out on the Packers till they throw their hands up and they throw in the towel. They give up. I think that Rodgers still has something in the tank. He has not been playing good this season. He has not been performing well. But I think that this is a perfect trap game for the Eagles because the Packers are finally getting something to go on offense a little bit. Even though they're slower, they have Christian Watson actually getting the football now. And that is something that you haven't been able to say for the first 10 weeks of the season, basically. Like 8 or 9 weeks. Getting a piece like that you didn't have before elevates their offense a little bit. I think that the Eagles just haven't performed to what they were. Obviously, they lose to the Commanders. And then, let's not forget this. They only beat the Colts by 3 last week. I love what Jalen Hurts is doing this season. I loved the A.J. Brown trade. I thought that he would be a great fantasy pick this year. But they have, over the last few weeks, been just a little behind the 8 ball. And I think that they're going to get caught up a little bit more. I think they need to get out of this funk. And I'll tell you this, a veteran quarterback is not who I would want to play against to get out of a funk like this. So I'm going to go with the Packers here. Eagles are favored by 6.5. That's almost a touchdown. Understandably so. I think that they will perhaps put the pedal to the metal. And I think the Packers, until they are mathematically, and they basically are, but I mean, I think that they will fight until the end of this thing. I think Rodgers is not going to give up like this. I don't care if he's been playing with a broken thumb. I think he's not going to give up quite yet. So I am going to go with the Packers in an absolutely bold move. But that might be my biggest upset of the week. It's them and the Bears statistically. But the next game, I'm going back to back. Now, let me tell you this. I am not a proponent of Kenny Pickett. I certainly, when I watched the film, thought, okay, this is a guy. He will end up being better. I mean, he's, getting reps under. I agree with the Steelers starting him to get reps. But I'll tell you this. I don't know why. This is a full feeling game. TJ Watt is an absolute dog. He has something that the pick last week against the Bengals was insane. That was one of the greatest athletic abilities I've ever seen from a defensive, like a pass rusher. But even if he can't do that on a week-to-week basis, he can get sacks at the quarterback. And although the Colts have been performing better recently, and I like what they're doing, actually, I think Jeff Saturday has brought some momentum. I would not be at all surprised for the Colts to win this one. This is probably the hardest pick I've had this week to make an upset. Like, this is my least confident upset pick. I have a feeling I don't like Kenny Pickett, but I think he might have a decent game this week specifically. I think that more so, though, TJ Watt, if you put him against the right matchup, Colts do not have good offensive tackles. They have historically had a great offensive line. They have Quentin Nelson. They have Ryan Kelly. You know, they have Braden Smith. But they're sticking like Bernard Raymond at left tackle. I don't love that. I think that if they can get TJ Watt on the right matchup, I think that he can make an explosive play. So this is going to be a close one, but I'm going to go with the Steelers.
And then lastly, we've got the Steelers versus the Colts. I'm going to go with the Colts. It's going to be low scoring, but you know, the Steelers just can't move that ball. They cannot move the ball to save their life. You know, Najee Harris has not been good this year. We all expected him to take another step after his great season last year, and it looks like he just took a step back. You know, instead of even inching forward, he's just going backwards. And then quarterback Kenny Pickett, or should I call him Kenny Picked? I mean, it's just not. He's not gonna get it done for you. He's not gonna win you that game. And so I'm gonna go with the Colts. And there are my picks for this week.
Thank you for watching this week's video. This is a longer one because we had some great insight from Danny as well. And so we'll see what happens in this week's picks. I'm not gonna be super, like, I had to take some upsets. I'm trying to get the win each week, right? Me and Matthew ended up tying last week. It ended up happening where we kind of split our upsets. But my goal is every week to hopefully get a win. You know, technically I'm playing an opponent every week. And so to win, it's just like with the World Cup going on right now, right? Like I believe the U.S. tied England, for example. They tied. But I have to go for a win here. I have to try to win, you can't make the same picks, and most of them, you know, I think that you have to, and there's always going to be few upsets every week. So if you don't take any, then it's hard to exactly get it. And we did have a mutual upset, and so that also eliminated another potential clash, you know, when you take an upset, is we both took that one. So I'm going to take a few risks here, and we'll see if it pays out. But thank you for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it. And stay tuned for more. This next video is going to be weird. I'm going overseas during the course of this next week. So I believe I'm going to get the video out. Well, I'm going to record it, and I'll probably schedule it to come out in the middle of the week. You know, it won't be, you'll be seeing me early in the week. So any injuries might be out, but we'll see what happens there. So thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in that next one.